You started as one cell. Now you're 37 trillion, and every single one of those trillions of cells came from that one tiny starting point. How does that even work? That's what we're going to figure out today, the full journey of the human body, from the very first moment of life all the way to the very end, and why every single human being goes through the exact same sequence of stages, driven by instructions already written into our DNA before we're even born. Let's start at the beginning. Not your birthday, before that, way before. Every human life starts at fertilization. That's when a sperm cell and an egg cell meet and merge into a single cell called a zygote. A zygote is tiny, smaller than the period at the end of this sentence, but it contains something enormous. A complete 46-chromosome blueprint for an entire person. Chromosomes are like instruction manuals, and in that one cell, you already have the full set. Every instruction your body will ever follow is already in there. From that single cell, everything else unfolds over roughly 38 weeks inside the womb. The zygote starts dividing, one cell becomes two become four become eight, and it keeps going. As the cells multiply, they start specializing. Some become skin cells, some become brain cells, some become heart cells. This process of specialization is called development, and it follows a precise, genetically timed sequence. The instructions in the DNA are basically running a schedule, turning certain genes on and off at exactly the right moments. Around week 6, just 6 weeks after fertilization, the heart begins beating. A structure barely visible to the naked eye is already pumping. By the end of 38 weeks, that original single cell has organized itself into a complete human baby with every major organ system in place. Now the baby is born, and the next phase begins, childhood. In the first year of life alone, a baby triples its birth weight. Think about that. If you weighed 7 pounds at birth, you'd weigh around 21 pounds by your first birthday. The body is growing at a speed it will never quite match again. The brain is forming connections at a furious pace. Everything is new. Everything is being wired in for the first time. This first growth surge is powered by growth hormone, a chemical signal the body produces that basically tells cells to multiply and build. Then growth settles into a steadier pace through early childhood until the second major growth explosion hits, puberty. In girls, this typically begins somewhere around ages 9 to 14. In boys, it's usually 11 to 16. During puberty, the body releases sex hormones, chemicals with names like estrogen and testosterone. These hormones work like a major software update for the body. Suddenly, the body grows taller, develops new physical characteristics, and becomes capable of reproduction. The brain also rewires significantly during this time. The parts that handle emotion become more active, which is part of why teenagers can feel things so intensely. But here's something genuinely surprising about the teenage brain. Even after puberty is done, even after the body looks fully adult, the brain is still unfinished. The prefrontal cortex, that's the front part of the brain, and it's responsible for making good decisions, controlling impulses, and thinking through consequences, doesn't fully develop until around age 25. So when people say teenagers make impulsive decisions, they're not just being unfair. The hardware for careful judgment is literally still being built. It's like trying to run advanced software on a computer that hasn't finished assembling itself yet. The emotional parts come online first. The braking system comes later. By the time a person reaches their 20s and 30s, the body hits what biologists consider its biological prime. Muscle strength is near its peak. Bone density, how solid and dense the bones are, is at its highest. The reproductive system is at full capacity. The brain is finally complete. This is early adulthood, and in pure biological terms, the body is running at its best. But even at this peak, the clock is already ticking. From around age 30 onward, measurable changes begin. Muscle mass starts declining at roughly 3 to 8% per decade. That means by age 50, a person could have lost somewhere around 10 to 20% of the muscle they had at 30, just from the natural aging process. Bone density starts dropping after 35, and at the cellular level, something very important is happening with structures called telomeres. Telomeres are like the plastic tips on the ends of shoelaces. They sit at the ends of chromosomes and protect them. Every time a cell divides, every time it copies itself to make a new cell, the telomeres get a tiny bit shorter. Over time, after enough divisions, they get so short that the cell can no longer divide safely. It either stops functioning or it dies. This shortening of telomeres is one of the core biological engines of aging. It's not random wear and tear, like a machine rusting out. It's a built-in countdown written into the biology of every cell. This is actually one of the most important things to understand about aging, and it flips a very common assumption upside down. Most people think aging is just like a car wearing out, random damage piling up over time. And yes, damage does accumulate, but aging is also a programmed process. Cells have built-in division limits and built-in signals that tell them to slow down or stop. The aging process is partly written into our DNA from the very beginning. It's not purely accidental. Think of it like the human life cycle being similar to a smartphone going through its software versions. It ships with the basic code, that's the DNA, gets major updates during childhood and puberty that bring new capabilities, reaches peak performance in early adulthood, then slowly accumulates bugs and slower processing over time until the hardware finally can't run the software anymore. The decline isn't a surprise malfunction. It was always part of the design. As the decades pass, the body enters late adulthood. Cell repair slows down. Every organ system, the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, has what biologists call an organ reserve. Think of organ reserve like extra capacity, the way a car engine can handle a burst of speed even when you're just cruising. A young person's kidneys can handle a lot of stress and still keep working fine. Over time, that extra capacity shrinks. The organs still work, but they have less room for error. This is why older people tend to get sick more easily and recover more slowly, not because their bodies are broken, but because the safety margin has narrowed. There's simply less buffer left, and this brings us to the biological ceiling on human life. Scientists studying aging have identified something called the Hayflick limit, named for the biologist who discovered it. It refers to the fact that human cells can only divide roughly 40 to 60 times before they stop dividing altogether. Every time a cell divides, the telomeres shorten a little more, until eventually the cell hits its limit and can no longer copy itself. When enough cells across enough organ systems reach that point, the body cannot keep maintaining itself. This places a hard upper limit on how long a human body can keep renewing itself. Based on this and other evidence, scientists estimate the maximum possible human lifespan at around 120 to 125 years. Not average lifespan, maximum. The oldest verified human age ever recorded sits right in that range. Beyond that point, the biological renewal system simply runs out of runway. Death itself is not an instant event. It's a process. When the heart stops, different cells die at different rates. Neurons in the brain, the cells that carry your thoughts and memories, are actually among the last to go, sometimes surviving several minutes after the heart has stopped beating. The body winds down in waves, system by system, cell by cell. So here's the full picture. One fertilized cell becomes 37 trillion. The body builds itself in the womb, surges through 2 explosive growth windows, reaches its peak, and then gradually, inevitably, follows the biological program toward decline. Every human who has ever lived has followed this same sequence. The details vary, the timing shifts a little, the peak looks different for different people, but the stages themselves are universal. They're written into the DNA that was present in that very first cell. Right now, inside your body, cells are dividing. New ones are being made. Old ones are dying. Both things are happening simultaneously, right this second. By the time you're somewhere between 7 and 10 years old, most of the cells you were born with have already been replaced at least once. The matter that makes up your body today is mostly not the same matter that made up your body a decade ago. You are not a fixed thing moving through time. You are a process, a continuous biological process of building and rebuilding, running a program that started the moment a single cell split in 2. And the you reading this is, in a very real sense, mostly new.